Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to this special video. This is a special video because together with me I have here on VoIP the legend himself, Mr. Alan Wilson, the Vice President of Tripwire. Hello, Alan Wilson.
Hey, should I call you Intense or should should I call you by your name?
Anything is fine. All right, so we all know about the history of Red Orchestra 2 and how it became what it is now. As a mod and all that, but how actually you decided to make this game? Like, who had the initial idea? Was it just an idea at a bar, at a beer or something, or how was it made?
I don't think anyone even remembers where the idea first came from. There was a team messing around with some ideas for a single player World War II set spy thing in about 99, 2000, somewhere back then. But by the time I joined the mod team in early 2003, it had already changed into being, people had gone away from that idea instead, and we're basically trying to build a multiplayer shooter based on the Eastern Front. Just that the Red Orchestra name from the spy ring in Germany it kind of stuck. Didn't make any sense, but it stuck.
Yeah, and how many were you at the beginning in the team?
I think the mod team, like so many mod teams, it varies considerably. I think at peak there was something like 40 people. I think, but how many of those were really contributing matter of some debate. But at peak, it was a big team.
And we are talking about Red Orchestra 2 or both RO1 and RO2.
I mean, after the mod, when we first set up the company in 2005, and I think we had 6 or 7 people in total, and some contractors when we were building RO1. By the time we did RO2, I think we were actually up at about, I think it was 12 or 15 employees.
Oh, nice.
So it was then a small number of people, but we used, a lot of the people from the mod team were still doing contract work for us in their spare time.
Yeah. Do you think Tripwire would be where it is today if you didn't win that contest where you got the Unreal free license?
Oh no, I think it's pretty straightforward. If the Red Orchestra mod hadn't turned out as good as it did and we hadn't won the Make Something Unreal contest, I think that actual win, first off, it told us that we had something that we ought to be able to make some money with and make a living out of. But also, it brought the team together, and of course, it got us the engine license. Without all of that, I think some of the team on them, I would have just stayed in my day job. A bunch of other people would have just would have tried to get jobs in the industry. John, who's CEO now, he'd have been off somewhere coding games. Others would have still been in whatever day jobs they had. And a few people actually got, thinking about it, a few people in about 2004 got offered jobs in the industry, and we lost them from the mod in those days. We lost a few people like that.
Nice. So it turned out quite well for you. Did you ever expect to have such a success?
I think when we were doing the mod, I think if we're realistic, most of us just got into it. People got into doing the mod for fun, or to help build a bit of portfolio. It wasn't until the Make Something Unreal contest came along that we thought it might turn into something. And even then, it wasn't until we were probably well into the actual, the actual mod contest in about 2004 that things started, that it became a real, we could actually do something real with this. And we were still kind of in shock at the end of 2004 when we won the contest. So that, then we just famously sort of 4 of us sat down and went,
that's really awesome.
This contest, what do we do? I guess we should probably start a company. Help.
Were you all gamers back then?
We were. All of us played games in format.
Because I remember I saw an interview with John Gibson, and he was kind of anti Call of Duty.
Yeah, a lot of it was a lot of people came together on the Red Orchestra mod because there was, at the time, there was Call of Duty and Medal of Honor around, but for a lot of people those were fun and all, but it was arcade style.
Yeah, exactly.
And we wanted something that felt more authentic. That I think, as someone in PC Gamer once put it, that if you could get it right in a Red Orchestra game, you wanted to feel like, hey, maybe I could have really done that in the real world. Whereas, I mean, another way we put it was that the Call of Duty and Medal of Honor, those sorts of games, made you feel like you were in a war movie.
Yeah.
And we said, we don't want to feel like we're in a war movie. We want to feel like we're actually in the war. And that was kind of the mental distinction. And as John said in a few articles, I mean, things like Call of Duty, those style of games, we talk about the skills gap. I mean, the gap between the very good players and the rest is quite small. It's all very very small margin. Whereas in Red Orchestra, someone who's really good, and who really knows, hey, me for example, I tend to use I used to use machine guns a lot and be
Okay.
the annoying machine gunner. And when you get really good at a role in Red Orchestra, you really do get good at it. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. There are really crazy guys out there right now. All right, so for us, the community, what you did with this game is really important. Not only important, but it's really unique because we keep jumping from World War II game to World War II game, and nothing feels like Red Orchestra. It's either way too arcadey or way too slow, like Arma Freestyle or something like that. And Red Orchestra is just perfect. And unfortunately, there is nothing like that anymore, and the game is slowly dying.
Yeah, it's always. I mean, it's always hard. I mean, it kind of filled a void. One of the things that you may remember when we went from RO1 to RO2 was thinking about, if we're going to go on making. RO1 was made with very little, and RO2 cost quite a lot more. And you move on to things like Vietnam, and it keeps costing more. And there's that basic, unfortunate economic problem is that we have to make money or we don't get to go on making games.
Yeah.
And then that's why there's always a pressure on us to expand the player base, because the more players we have, the more money, the more we can build. It's pretty simple. And that's why, for example, with RO2, we were looking at how can we expand the player base. We started experimenting with things like, we did an action mode in RO2, so I don't think anyone plays anymore. That way of the dodo. And so we're always we're always kind of experimenting, and this is why after Eastern France and then Western France and things like this and Pacific, we decided to change up to Vietnam. Let's go with a different time period, and again let's see, because it's unfortunately because we've got to balance the love of the game that that we have. It's been God, was it 16, 17, 18 years around the RO franchise, with the fact that if we don't make money on the damn thing, we don't get to make the next one.
Yeah, that's sad. Sad, and a lot of people don't understand this aspect, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, the problem is, of course, for the game player, and because all of us are game players. I still, you'll find me jumping onto RO2 servers. I still jump in and play RO2 a couple of times a month now, just because. Even after all these years, and as a gamer, you don't want to be concerned about. I just want to play a game. Here's a game I like. Especially if you do this and this and this, I will really like it. It's what I want to play. The economics of it is not the gamer's problem. It's up. That's our challenge, to figure out how to produce the game that people enjoy. And it's a big thing for us particularly is that you go on enjoying years.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not, we're not EA Activision, where it's hey, we're going to release Call of Duty 17 this year, and next year when people are bored of it and we got a few bits wrong with that one, we'll just change it and call it Call of Duty 29 or whatever's next. we want the games to last a long time. We're putting in, in most cases, 3 to 5 years of free support. Which is so it's up to us to balance all of that. It's not down to the gamer to be concerned about the economics of it all, how we do what we do. The gamers, we want everyone's feedback, and we want to know, what do people want next? What do you want in this game? What would you like the next game to be? What are the things that we should be trying?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that as well. We are going to have a talk about that.
Yeah, sure. We're the ones who have to juggle all that. It's our job.
Yeah.
That's why we get paid, is to try and juggle all these pieces to produce a game that enough people want to play and go on playing, that makes us money, so that we can then go on and make another game and another game. Because if we get it, basically, we're big enough now that we have, multiple games rolling, and screwing up on one game wouldn't ruin the company. But you think about it, when we're doing one game at a time, we're doing Red Orchestra 1. If that hadn't made enough money, there never would have been a Red Orchestra 2 or a Tripwire.
Yeah.
Red Orchestra 2, if we'd failed dismally on that, there wouldn't have been anything beyond that. And that's why this is very hard.
Yeah, we understand. Some of us. Let's go back a little bit with more history about Red Orchestra, because for everyone else who's watching this recording, I approached Alan with some emails because I'm really curious about different things, and we decided to make this interview and explain more about the history of Red Orchestra to everyone. So how did you guys, Tripwire, how did you guys come with the idea to actually go to Volgograd to make research?
I think it's as far back as, I think, in 2006, we were thinking about, Red Orchestra 1's been successful, what's the next one going to be? And we thought, do we switch fronts? Through a bunch of decision making, we came around to no, we'll do the Eastern Front again. And we thought about, rather than making it as generic as RO1, we wanted to focus it on something. We went through what are the big battles that what are the big events in World War II on the Eastern Front that people are familiar with, because we wanted some level of familiarity, and inevitably it came back to Stalingrad. So then it comes down to, look, we know from the mod and from RO1 that the player base, they want it to feel authentic. You can get into the argument about authentic versus realistic and all the rest. Realistic,
yeah, of course,
means we stick you in a hole in the ground for 3 weeks. Occasionally we throw a few mortar rounds at you. If you don't die of frostbite, then a bunch of Russians are going to come along and bayonet you, and that's the sum. That's not a game. That's just silly. That's why we talk about it. It's about being authentic and it feeling authentic. And the clear thing there was that we realized that Stalingrad, while it's immensely famous, it's one of the most iconic and well-known battles of the century. Looking at the research materials, looking at what we could find, to make the levels look and feel authentic, it was just there just wasn't much around. You just realized that there's a ton of famous photos of destroyed Stalingrad, but what did it look like? And we realized that we had to know, what did it look like when the Germans first attacked in August, September of 42? It's all very well just having a few photos of the devastated Stalingrad. We needed to know what it actually was like. And part of it was also, the reason for the visit is that we realized that there's plenty of locations that that were rebuilt, that still exist, and all the rest of it. Iconic stuff like the grain elevator, and the factories. While they're not the same now as they were then, there's decent chunks to it. We realized that the single best way to get a really good handle on how should it look, what's the feel to the place, was to go there. To go to locations that we could identify that were rebuilt, built in a similar style, all the rest of that.
That's
locations that still. Pardon?
That's very awesome. All the process of this.
Yeah, because you've seen some of the. We did we got a whole bunch of aerial photography. A friend who does a lot of work at the National Archives in Washington, D.C., we commissioned him to basically hunt down. I think we ended up hunting down 200 or 300 aerial photographs taken at all stages of the battle, and we went through the process of overlaying, the best of those on Google Earth on modern day Volgograd, and realized that while the city was devastated in 42, 43, some of it actually survived. Some elements were just rebuilt. Some were, and some buildings actually survived. So there's a decent number of cases where we could see the actual building and get photographs of the actual building. Even in some cases, in where was it? It was behind Traktorny. We realized that the apartments there were rebuilt. And we actually got into someone's apartment. I'll send you the photos sometime. And actually got a real handle on what are they like inside, because we don't live in Russia. It's not like the guys who did games like Stalker and things like this, who could go to Pripyat, and understood what it looks like, what it feels like. So we needed to go there and we took thousands of photos, hours and hours of videos, and all the rest of it.
How many days have you stayed there?
We were just there for a week. 3 of us went. I'm trying to remember it was a busy schedule. We private tours of things like the old had been the Univermag of the of Red October and their archive, and some buildings that were there's some ruined buildings on the terrain of Red October that they're very proud of as being relics from the war. We walked all over the Mamayev, and also took a day out onto the steppe to look at some battlefield archaeology, which was quite spooky. It works. I mean, I don't know if you know. I mean, to this day they're still out on the steppe outside modern day Volgograd. They're still digging up.
Yeah, they still find
older positions. Yeah, and it's you go. There's a place called on the road west of Volgograd called Rasoshka, where there's a big memorial to all the German missing, but it's also where all the bones that are dug up, all the dead soldiers and probably civilians too.
No.
Their remains are taken to Rasoshka for proper burial, and that's that particular site is they hold regular ceremonies there. I mean, I think certainly still once a month, interring basically war dead from all that time ago. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing, it was all about if we're going to claim to be authentic and make it not be a comic book Stalingrad, we have to go there and photograph it and film it and get it right, and that was hugely important to us.
Yeah, that's the best thing that you guys did.
Thank you.
Not only besides the game, but to actually go there and do all the research.
Yeah, exactly. It was actually interesting talking to one or two people there, because we were explained, we're doing this research for a video game. There was a couple of people who said, who through our translator said, do you actually think this is an appropriate topic for a game? That actually, when you stop and think about it, was actually quite a hard one to answer. To this day, I'm not sure I have a good answer. But I know what they meant. I mean, when you think of the carnage, the sacrifice, the destruction, should we be making games about it? That's a whole separate philosophical discussion.
I mean, it's a good idea to preserve the history. I mean, maybe.
Well, that was an important part of it for us. Was there's myths about Stalingrad, both in Russia and in the West, and we wanted to tell. And this is why we actually did the now lost single player piece of RO2, because we wanted to tell some of the history, some of the the story, the odd bits of story that you can find.
Because I'm pretty sure like a lot of teenagers or people below 20 years old, I think they learn a lot of history from just by playing this game and getting curious instead of history classes at school or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's really awesome. But how did you guys actually end up getting a private tour of Red October Factory? Like, who do you call to achieve such a thing?
It was funny. I mean, part of the thought process. There's a friend of mine lives in the UK. I'm British, in case you hadn't gathered. Not American. He was married to a girl from Volgograd, and he had been an English teacher in Volgograd, which is where he met his wife and all this sort of thing. And what we ended up doing was that the two of them basically contacted, everyone we could think of in Volgograd. And because she had family there, they could actually find the right people to contact. Which is how we got into the grain elevator, and we'd got we got tours of the Panorama Museum, and the old Civil War Museum, and the Univermag, and God, who else we met? We were supposed to have a tour of Tractorni, but we'd actually their security intercepted us when we arrived and basically threw us out. Although we were producing paperwork that said, "Hey, look, your director of whatever is meeting with us," and and they went, "Well, we don't care. You're still leaving." And Barricadi, they were never prepared. I mean, they're still producing hardware for the Russian army. So there was no way they were going to let us inside there.
But, maybe they just wanted a bit of bribe, a vodka or something.
Well, that's possible. I mean, it's quite possible that we didn't make the right offers. I mean, another example, we met with I think the head of the city's head of planning, who worked for the I'm going to say which oblast is it? I've forgotten. And he said, he'd love to help us out. I mean, they have old documents, but survived the war, which were city planning documents, which would have been wonderful for us. But he said that he could only release them to us if he got a request from an equivalent government organization in America. And we're thinking, who the hell would? No idea how to do that. And we thought about it, but to make it an official government request, there was just no way that we couldn't figure that one out, which is a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame you didn't actually get in there in Tractorni or Barricadi, where a lot of battles happen. I am a fan of Red October Factory. It's my favorite map in the game. And now to think that I don't have the chance to play on a map made by Tripwire on Tractorni or Barricadi just because you didn't give vodka to a guy at the gate. Yeah. It's a shame.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the thing is that it's Red October. Keep in mind that what we did have, let's think with Red October, all the fighting we've got there takes place in the buildings which are actually off the factory. Oh, sorry, no, Red October. That's right. We did I forgot. We actually got a plan, or some apart from the aerial photos, we actually had plans of Red October Factory as it was in about 1940. So that so that the layout at least is pretty accurate.
You mean that red map that you sent me?
I can't remember what I already sent you. Yeah, probably.
That one. It's in Russian.
Yeah, and we've got some others as well. And the other one is what was it, Commissar's house and all that. That's. Unfortunately, the Commissar's house had been bulldozed a few years before we got there, but the foundations were still standing. So, the plan of it is right. What it actually looked like inside is unfortunately purely guesswork. But we were walking around that whole area for hours behind because that's behind Barricadi, and at one point. As we got a bit too close to the back wall of the Barricadi factory, one of the guards, came wandering over, waving an AK-74 at us, but basically going, Russian for, okay, I don't know who you are, but fuck off.
That's crazy. Any other funny moments like this?
Yeah, like, well, I was gonna say there's all sorts of weird stuff. I mean, there's when where the commissar house was, they'd knocked the building down. They'd left about the bottom 3 or 4 feet of all the wall. It's a very, very heavy building, and they'd filled in the basements. But I was standing up on the remains of some of the walls when taking some video. And Tony, had organised the trip, suddenly has realised what some other building is, and just comes over and starts pulling at me. And I'm going, wait a minute. And he's going, no, come on, and he's really excited about something. And without looking, I take a step, and I fell clean off the wall. I'm holding my camera, which was I'd bought a new camera for the trip, and so I'm holding my camera in one hand. The lens cap isn't on because I've been taking film. And so I ended up landing on the dirt, taking half the skin off my left arm.
Oh,
Generally making an idiot of myself because I was trying to protect the camera. Here's another thought for you. Just as a precaution, we took, apart from separate flash drives, we also took a separate hard drive and were backing up everything from all our cameras every day onto a completely separate drive. Which we kept completely separate from the cameras in case we got in the situation at somewhere like the Barricadi, where they demand, in case they demanded the cards from the cameras or anything, so that we wouldn't lose everything.
Yeah, that's quite smart. You've been prepared for that.
Yeah, we also took a fair amount of alcohol with us to give as presents to people.
And have you actually did it? Were they happy?
Oh yes, I mean we made sure we weren't stupid enough to take vodka to Russia. We took good supplies of whiskey. But yeah, we made presents of bottles of whiskey to Boris Grigorievich Usik, who ran the Panorama Museum, and a whole bunch of other people.
Now, are there any other areas in Volgograd which you researched, but you didn't make a map out of it, but you wanted to make a map?
I think there probably is. I'm just trying to think of which. We covered. Of course. One of them was areas like the actual banks of the Volga. We wanted to do. And I think maps were started 2 or 3 times on under the general heading of Volga banks. The sort of famous occasion when once the Germans had got behind Pavlov's house, behind 9th January Square, down to the Volga, and I think they shipped Radimtsev's paratroopers across the river, and that we wanted to pick up on that scenario. That's one that never actually got done. It was a difficult area to research. We kind of, one of the reasons for going out on the steppe is we kind of wanted to do, another map, because we did Gumrak, as purely as a tank battle. But we wanted to. We were looking for somewhere that we could do as a good infantry battle. But the more we looked at, the fighting out on the steppe, the more, it's just so barren up there. There's nothing out there that making a good scenario for our, for the game out of it was really hard. Trying to think of other areas. There's other areas of the city centre which we'd kind of done research on and thought about, never made into maps.
That's a shame.
It's just a question of time and money.
Yeah. So anyway, you finish the research there, right? And you go back to USA and you sit at your computer in Tripwire office and you decide, all right, let's make some maps with the research we made. What was the actual process involved in making a map? Like from idea to implementation, how did you do it?
What we did, I mean, and it took various people. We'd pass this on to the level of what I would do is provide them with, if we're going to do a battle on, for example, fallen fighters, what I do is provide the level designer with basically, a plan of the area, and I think in that instance, I provided them with a plan basically that covers all the way from the station down through, past the what's the famous fountain called the Barmalay Fountain. The old Civil War Museum down Gogolia, and down past the Univermag and into Fallen Fighters Square, and So I could provide them with full plan of the area, so they could start thinking about which part of this area can we make a good map out of. Because part of it is, while you want it to be historically accurate, it also has to be an engaging map. But it's got to be something that will engage the player as well. And they would take the plans, the aerial photos, the plan of the area, because I'd actually convert all of that into an actual drawn out plan of each area, and they'd look for which slice of this do we take, because we thought about doing a series of combats from the station across the square outside the station, down Gogolya, maybe into the park towards the Gorky Theatre, or into Fallen Fighters. And in the end, we realized that some of it just wasn't going to make for an interesting and sensible combat. I mean, the area between the station and and the Civil War Museum and stuff like that. That's a big open space. What are you going to do with that big open space? And this is what the level designers would do would be to home in on. Okay, let's take this area of Fallen Fighters rather than center it on the Univermag. We actually want to use the whole square and take that as the centerpiece and work and have the buildings around the outside. And once they'd done that, then what they would do is they would block out. And the process is still the same. Today is is that basically the level designers block out the space, which basically means just create it very simplistically using basic building blocks in Unreal. Then we'd try it out. We'd run play tests in the space. It looks shit. Building basic grey and not don't necessarily have windows in the right place or anything.
Yeah, but to be functional, and then you texture it afterwards.
What you're looking for is this gameplay going to be engaging? And you'd loop around through that, and some of that is also about the level designers thinking about, this space is too open. I mean, how are we going to what cover can we provide? We can't just we're not going to make up buildings. Okay, let's leave a couple of burnt out tanks there. That'll provide some cover. And so they'd be working around all of that. And while they're doing that, I'd be building up the real detailed research of, look, here is in that instance, here is everything I've got on every single building that's going to be in that play space. And if we have nothing on the building, this is typical architecture of what it should look like. So that as they've then developed that whole, the gameplay space, and we finally lock, and it can take a month or two to lock down that gameplay space. Then it turns over to the art crews to think about, okay, so what should this actually look like? What pieces do we need to build? What are these? At the moment, this is just a grey skeleton of a building. What's it actually supposed to look like? And that would be the kind of the next stage, is actually the real look of it, not just the layout, but the real look of it. This building, this is the Univermag, what it looks like. We actually had plans of the Univermag. In some instances, we simply don't have any material on the building except an aerial photo, and we have to pick what would be a likely style of building, and the artists have to create it.
That's an insane amount of work. How long did it take for one map on average to make?
I think probably 3 to 6 months. In some cases, you end up. The problem is that you're building the maps as you're building the game, which means that all the gameplay features are not necessarily complete when you're trying to build a map, which means that when you're first testing out the layout on a map, you may not have all the gameplay features, which means that when you come back and try it later on with some extra features, in the game, then it may feel different. It may not work as well, and then things start getting reworked. In an ideal world, you have all the gameplay systems up and running before you start trying to play test map. But, we didn't.
But that never works out.
Yeah, we
in real life. Yeah.
So we used to reckon on about 3 months a map.
That's a lot of time. What was the hardest map to research information about?
Good question. Mamayev was difficult because there's no real photography of what was actually on the hill back in the day. But then there wasn't much up there, so we could kind of make it up. Another one that was that you'd think should be really simple, but or should be well covered, but actually was a bastard, was Pavlov's house. As famous as that might be, up to when we first started work on that area, I'd only ever seen, I think, 2 photos of Pavlov's house.
Oh wow!
Literally just 2 photos, and none of the rest of 9 January Square. And you're going, okay, what the hell does this actually look like? Because I mean, the building that's there now is, there's a building on the same space that is roughly the same shape, behind the Panorama Museum. And strange enough, there's more photos of the mill that stands behind Pavlov's house than there is of Pavlov's house itself.
Yeah.
One of the things I'd started doing, this went on for 2 or 3 years, I guess, is I'd keep hunting down photos, and as you're looking through books, occasionally because you get to know it all well enough, there's times when you went, wait a minute, that photo in this book about something else, that's Pavlov's house. And I found 2 or 3 other photos which were never labeled as Pavlov's house, but suddenly you realize, I know what that building is, so you'd keep adding that information in. But that was strangely difficult. It was, for something that's so famous and such an iconic battle, the fact that there's so little information, photographic information on it, was strange.
Did you actually have any photos of the interior, or was it just made from your imagination?
No, there was no photos of the interior at all. Never found them. Still to this day, I've never seen any. What we had to do was having been in, for example, apartments behind Traktorny and a few other buildings, was to basically try and guess. But here's another thing that people probably don't realize: if you sit down and take the building interiors, like Pavlov's house, and you take those interiors apart, you'll find that they don't actually fit real world sizes. And the reason for that is, we originally started building things, I think on apartments. Mm-hmm. We started building them exactly to the right dimensions. But when you think that, in some of those old Soviet apartment blocks, a bedroom would be 2.5 meters by 2 meters. They're not big, they're tiny rooms. The bathroom, if you look at an old Soviet apartment block, the bathroom is probably about 1.60 meters long by 1 meter and a bit wide.
Sounds about
they're
right.
Tiny.
We have the same apartments here in Romania. I mean, whole Eastern Europe is the same.
Yeah, and if you put that in game, you realize that and you look at it in engine, it seems tiny. It feels like a doll's house. So what we actually had to do was to, if you look, you'll realize that, and look at it in in the editor, you'll realize that the actual rooms are much bigger than they should be, because otherwise they feel ridiculously small. It's just weird how it comes out in game, which means that there aren't anything like as many rooms in a building as there should be, because they're larger. And we had to do that across the board, because otherwise you just get in this weird situation that a bathroom that small just feels ridiculously tiny. Because when you think about the collision cylinders around your player character and the equipment you're carrying, you'd barely be able to get in a room. So we had to. So that's one of the weird things about the building interiors. It doesn't matter so much in sort of government style buildings or in the Univermag, which is a department store. But in an apartment block, no, we had to throw reality out the window and think, we need them to make this look right, but it's also, we're going to have to scale it up, or it's just going to feel ridiculously small. So that was one of the weird things. Interior shots of buildings was almost impossible to come by. We almost never found any good interior shots. I mean, even to be honest, one of the biggest headaches was finding pre-battle photography of Stalingrad, and that was so hard. And it's strange when you think about most Western cities. Everyone's busy taking photos of all the time, and you can get postcards of them and all this stuff. But you realize that under the Soviet regime, people weren't taking thousands of snapshots and posting them on the internet. You'd get the Soviet propaganda photos of look at this amazing building we've built. It's very special. We could find photos from 1920s.
Oh, wow.
But the problem is that, sometimes we could find a decent amount of photos from pre-revolutionary times. But that's 40, 50 years before the war. And you look at the city plans. For example, did you know Fallen Fighters Square, before it was Fallen Fighters Square, the city of Volgograd, as it was Tsaritsyn, before it was Stalin, they'd spent 11 years building a cathedral, Fallen Fighters Square, massive cathedral.
No, I didn't know that.
They finished it. Well, I'm not sure they even finished it. But when after the revolution, the first thing that the Bolsheviks did was to demolish the cathedral. And then with the fighting around Tsaritsyn, it became Stalingrad, and it became Fallen Fighters Square. But there was a bloody great cathedral there, and I think I've got one photo of it. But the point is that the photos we'd got were taken before the cathedral was built. We knew a cathedral had existed there, and it had been knocked down again. So, you're trying to work out what the hell did it actually look like. Same with, the area around Pavlov's house, 9th January Square. I've got maps of the city from 1928, and there was a church, with some side buildings in the middle of 9th January Square in 1928. Which had gone by the time, and Pavlov's house, what became known as Pavlov's house, hadn't been built. But the problem was, what we didn't have was photos after that church had been knocked down when they built Pavlov's house. So a lot of the time, you're trying to guess. Well, this map says that this building was here, but we know it wasn't by 1942. So what was there? And you're guessing, and you're trying to use the aerial photography to figure out what had changed. And building that you can see in the aerial photo, is that the same building that I've got photos of from 1917, or did they knock that down and build something else on the same foundation? You just don't know.
Now that you spoke about the churches and all that, now I have a question regarding Spartanovka. There is that church, Bravo Objective. Is that actually was it in real life? Was it demolished? What's up with that?
I'm trying to think. Spartanovka, the map Spartanovka is loosely based on an area on the west side of Spartanovka as it was in the war. It's only loosely based on it. I believe there was still a church there from memory. I'd have to look at the aerial photos. I think there was still a church there, but our guess is that it was no longer used as a church. The Soviets, having decided that any religion except being a Bolshevik was a bad idea.
Yeah, because I looked everywhere on Google Maps and no sign of a church in Spartanovka, that region. I mean,
no, I'm pretty sure Spartanovka has changed dramatically. Since the war.
It does, in better ways.
Good.
So now knowing that how much research goes behind a map and how much work, what would you say is your favorite map in Red Orchestra 2?
Oh, that's a hard
one. But I mean only Tripwire made maps.
Sure. I don't know. When I'm playing, that's a really hard one. For the look. I suppose I have different favorite maps for different reasons. Pavlov's house, because we did so much detective work to work out what that place should look like, what everything there should look like. Fallen Fighters, because that's probably the closest we got to the real locations of any map, because that's the one we had probably the best information. What else? In terms of playing, I actually enjoy playing Spartanov. I have mixed feelings about Fallen Fighters as a map play. What else? Red October I enjoy. I like that one. I have very mixed. Another one I have mixed feelings about is Gumrak. I'm a treadhead. I'm a tanky by I like tanks. I spent time working for the Royal Armoured Corps, volunteering at the Royal Armoured Corps Tank Museum in England. And I wish we could have done. I wish we could have done more with tanks and vehicles in RO2. And Gumrak. Yeah, it's one of those that I definitely have mixed feelings about, because it's we wanted something that really featured armored combat, but it feels, I don't know, somehow it tends to feel a bit empty to me.
We wanted as well some more tank combat, but for example on Gumrak it's avoided on majority of the servers, because once you know where to aim with the T-34, the Germans stand no chance. So
yep.
Do you know about any custom maps that you like?
Let me think. Here's a funny thought. I mean, in playing, I haven't seen much in the way of custom maps turn up for a while. I have a soft spot for Stalingrad Castle, because that's based off one of our maps in the first place.
Yeah,
I guess. I'm not sure about the gameplay on it. Not completely sure about it, but I have a soft spot for that map. God, what else is still being played? Throw out some names. I'll see if I can remember. Oh God, I mean,
Bridges, Mishkova.
I was going to say Bridges. Yeah, that had to come up. I have a love-hate relationship with that.
Yeah, everyone has the same. Everyone.
Yeah.
It's good once in a while, but not often.
Yeah, it's one of those that you're in for a marathon. It's a monster. I mean, the love that went into creating that map was amazing. But that is one of those where you're in for a marathon. It can be amazing. It can, in a decently balanced match, it can come down. It comes down to the last minutes. And it works perfectly. And at other times, it's just, oh God, have we still got another 20 minutes of this?
Yeah. Now, let's talk about the bad side. What maps you don't like? Because now, after everything you said, I kind of feel guilty and ashamed, but considering how much work has been done for the maps, but I absolutely dislike Mamaev Kurgan.
It's Mamaev is it's one of those that, again, it's one of those fights we felt it was important to portray, but it was really difficult to try, as we got into it, thinking about how do you make this interesting and balanced, and that was really hard. It can work. Not greatly convinced.
Do you know how the community? Do you know how the community calls Mamaev Kurgan?
God, tell me.
Nazi moon base.
That's not unfair. I mean, Gumrak, I have a love-hate relationship with. I so wanted that to work because I want the tank combat to work, but maps I really don't like. Yeah, there are. Oh God, what's that one called? Sod it. It was actually a map contest went on. I just get. I'm trying to think which one it is. It's set in a factory. It's Cold Steel.
Cold Steel.
It's. I don't know why. It's just one I've just never got on with. It's just.
How about Barricade Factory? That was a custom-made map, and you guys should have, in my opinion, my personal opinion, you should have added it as a stock map.
I'm trying to remember, but which one is Barricade? Trying to think what it looks like.
It looks like a combination of Cold Steel with Red October Factory.
Yeah, I'd have to fire up the game and open up the map to remember what it looks like. The fact that I don't remember which one it is probably tells you something. What else? I'm trying to think of other map. Mishkova. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's too difficult. I'd need to sort of start going. I'd need to start plowing back through all the old maps and go, oh, I remember this one. That's half the trouble. Right. Is that I play for an hour or two a couple of times a month. So it's a lot of this stuff is unfortunately lost in the mists of time. I've been too busy playing shark games.
Are you guys doing any more work on Red Orchestra 2? Even if it's a little bit of work.
No, I mean we haven't touched Red Orchestra 2 in in quite a while. I mean there comes a point when it comes back to the economics.
Mm-hmm.
It simply isn't worth us putting the effort in. I mean, the money we make now from Red Orchestra 2 is tiny. It wouldn't the amount of the money we make now, it isn't even enough to keep 2 or 3 people busy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a hard one. It's something we have to be we're careful about because we will keep doing updates for games while we continue to make money, because it'll cost us $200,000-$300,000 to do a half decent update. And that means that we have to then we need the game to go on sale and generate an extra $300,000 or $400,000 to pay for that update and make a profit on it.
That's a very interesting thing, because I wanted to ask you, like, there are a couple of minor bugs in Red Orchestra 2, which we, the community, we think it would be a very easy fix. So to give you one example of that would be the -1 bug of the tank. Do you know about that?
I think so. Which one are we talking about?
So basically when the reinforcements get cut to 0 for both sides, and let's say it's bridges where you have a tank, right? And an anti-tanker gunner shoots the tank but kills a crew member. So basically the game says, okay, -1, because a crew member died, but the tank didn't die. And then the map doesn't end. So basically you have to wait 14 minutes until the map is over. And we think that's an easy fix. So we are like, how much work would it be actually for Tripwire to fix this and make a quick patch?
To fix it, it would probably be, I'm guessing, a fix like that, assuming it's as simple as it sounds, which it may not be. Call it a couple of days for a coder, is probably all it is. But here's the catch. This is where modders have an easier life. When we do some updates, and it's like we've got some updates rolling into some bug fixes that we're working on in Vietnam at the moment, and the first problem is actually finding the problem. In this instance, it's very reproducible, which means that we can show a coder where the problem is. Call it a couple of days for the coder to figure it out. We no longer have capability to actually do builds on Red Orchestra, because we haven't done it in age. So we'd have to rebuild that. That would take probably a week or two to set up again, because it's a horribly complex process. Then on top of that, we once you've created a build, we would need to do a full QA pass on the game. Now we could risk doing what we just call a smoke test or halo test around the known problem, but you still have to, because the build process is so complex, we still have to check. It's basically a full QA team of 3 or 4 people would need about a week to test the build, because too many times in the past we found just stupid shit breaks when it shouldn't. For some reason, as I said, they're complex processes. The build, if you're doing builds every day, it shouldn't be a problem. But where we're in something like this, we haven't done a build for ages. We'd have to make sure that it's picked up the right version of every map. It means that QA basically has to, on a server, open up every map, test every with multiple people, run around, test every objective can be taken and retaken, and basically has to work through the mechanics, at least, of every single map. So, as silly as it sounds, it probably means that for us to actually do that fix now would take, say, 2 days of code, take 10 days to get the build process back up and running reliably. QA team for a week. It would probably end up costing us somewhere between 10 and 20,000 to make that fix.
Oh wow! All right, so we start tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Oh man!
Got a Kickstarter campaign going.
But I imagine the costs are smaller for Rising Storm Vietnam. Because you're actively working. No,
the build process is still exists, so we haven't got to do that. But I mean, no, the cost. I mean, it doesn't cost any less. It still means that we'd take a bit of that out. I mean, to do an equivalent fix would probably cost about 10 grand in Vietnam. This is also why you don't just do one fix at a time. You know, you batch them up into a bigger update, because the QA process is non-trivial. And you know, if you put out a new build every week, QA will need a whole week to test a build. And if something's wrong with the build because someone's picked up, you know, you realize that someone's working on a map somewhere and someone's picked, you know, and the build process picks up the wrong version of the map, so the build is fucked. Which means that then you have to go back to the beginning of the build process. You know, make sure you figure out what you did, what the build engineer did wrong, do it again, do it right, start testing again. You know, and all of those things, it just eats up time.
Yeah.
And part of that is because what we can't do when you're a mod team, we could take the risk of going, well, look, we've just changed these few bits of code. You know, we'll do a build. It shouldn't be a problem. Just test the code, because if you have screwed up the build and you've picked up the wrong version of the map as a mod team, you know, the fans will just go, "Hey, you fucked up," and you'll go, "Oops, sorry," and we'll go and put it right. When we're selling the game and when we're a professional company, we can't do that. You know, you can. Stupid stuff happens, but you cannot have it happening all the time, because at the end of the day, you know. What are you guys? You know, what are the players going to think? You're going to go, "Oh God, what have they got wrong? They've done another build. They've tried to fix this bug. What have they got wrong? What else have they screwed up?" And you can't live on that sort of reputation. People get tired of it very quickly, and go away. People go away. No one else is going to buy the game. So we had to be very, very careful.
All right. So now with that out of the way, here comes the big question, which everyone wants to know. Are there any news about a possible Red Orchestra free or something similar?
No, I mean, there's nothing. You know, to be quite straight about it, there's nothing planned at the moment. We're still in the life cycle with Vietnam. We've had a lot of thoughts, and we're sort of doing bits of planning about what do we do next with the Red Orchestra franchise, and that in itself is really difficult. Is what do the players want? Would you want us to go back and do another World War II game?
Absolutely.
We enjoyed doing Vietnam because it was a complete change for us. But it does mean that no, you're not going to get another Red Orchestra game. It's not going to suddenly appear next year. It's got to be 2 or 3 years away.
What war setting what war theater would you consider if it would be something?
We are considering everything from World War II, and if we do World War II, do we go Western Front, Eastern Front, or do we Pacific again? We enjoyed doing Vietnam. Doing something outside World War II theater was fun. We don't want to do the whole modern warfare thing. That's never felt like us. I mean, if we did, I think it would be a different game. We had thought about actually what AMG are doing at the moment. You know, they're doing their Project 83.
Yeah.
Set in the Cold War era. That would be a fun period to explore as well. There's a lot that we could do there. Don't know is the straight answer. It would be our biggest temptation would be to go back to World War II.
And that's pretty much what I hear as well from a community perspective. Majority, there are different opinions, but majority agree like something late war, 44, 45, and I don't know, Berlin setting when the Russians attack.
Well, we've been to Berlin before.
Again with the same amount of research, and that would be awesome.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, great. Take us 3 years of my life.
So please, the historians as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, late war if we take the Eastern Front, is easier than doing Stalingrad because there is a lot of a photography of Poland and Germany. That would be to do some of those accurately would be probably far easier. For example, strange as it sounds, I have city plans of God knows how many cities in Eastern Europe. So all of that sort of stuff. The catch with late war for me, is that while you've got the Soviets at their best, you've got the Germans kind of disintegrating, and you kind of need to do something well in late war. You kind of need to ignore the fact the German army, the Wehrmacht and the SS were not at their best. They were slowly but surely they were crumbling. But it's a game, so you can kind of ignore that.
Yeah.
If you're building a big strategic game, it's a bit harder to ignore. But you can do it, at the scale that we do, down at the individual man and individual squad and platoon. Yeah, late war would be fun. I mean, we've always wanted, one of the bits for us is we've always wanted to go off into some of the less well-known bits of the war. We've talked about Finland in the past, and doing the Finns and the Winter War. There's a Winter War mod being created for Vietnam now, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that turns up. I'd love to do some of the less well-known conflicts. For me, that's half the fun. Strange one. Let's pick a strange one now. If you want to do modern, more modern warfare, let's do the Soviets in Afghanistan. That would be an unusual one. What else would I like to? I mean, people have talked about the Korean War, but I've never felt that was a good one for individual level combat. That always feels like Western firepower against largely Chinese mass infantry tactics, which is kind of I'd love to explore bits of World War One. What's the game called?
Verdun and
Tannenberg.
Tannenberg,
yeah. They've made a really interesting exploration of that time period, and there's a piece of me that would, as we go around again, would like to let's do something different. I mean, I hate to say it, but Normandy and Berlin and all of these things, it's all been done too many times for me.
I agree with you on that one, but aren't you afraid about the popularity of the game? Like, majority of the people, when you talk World War II, they expect Nazi Germany versus Soviets, but they won't expect like Soviets in Afghanistan or something.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the reality of
which brings money and so on.
Yeah. And this is the trouble, is that while we would love to do something that's weird and wonderful, the big question for us is,
will it make money? Yeah,
this is it. I mean, because if we spend, let's be honest, to build the next Red Orchestra is probably, because the expectations of what it's going to look like and everything else, are much higher than it was when we did Red Orchestra 1. Now we'd have to assume, pick a number, it's going to cost us $10 million to build the next Red Orchestra, possibly more.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it gets ridiculous. And you stop and think about,
that's insane. I expected a lot of money, but I didn't expect millions.
Oh yeah, it does get ridiculous. This is the trouble, is that the technology. You look at Unreal 4 and equivalent engines. They're much better than Unreal 2 and Unreal 3, but the expectations from the players for what a game will look like, the level of fidelity in the animation and everything else, and that all of that is hugely time intensive. Time costs money. You think if you went back and looked at the animations, just take that as an example. Look at the animations, the difference between the animation in RO1, or even go back to the mod RO1, RO2, and then Vietnam.
Yeah,
and you see how much that's progressed. But each time, you're probably doubling the workload. Where in the mod, a reload animation probably had about 3 movements. You look at Vietnam, people now expect it to include every single. There's I don't know. I've forgotten how many individual movements there are in just the reload of an M16 or an AK. It's all of these things take a huge amount of time,
but
because it's people doing the work. It costs a buttload of money.
wouldn't it be simpler to just like you already have that platform for Rising Storm Vietnam, which is absolutely awesome. The game feels great, smooth and everything, and like you said, animations and combat mechanics are already built. Wouldn't it be simpler to just clone that and then make some adjustments for Red Orchestra Free?
Oh,
like maybe design new maps and new animations a little bit, but
sure, it would. But the problem we've got is that, and it's a genuine problem for Vietnam now, is that the code base, that Vietnam runs on today in 2019, we started work on in 2007, and that code base was used for RO2, kicked around a bit for Rising Storm, whole areas of it were ripped out and rebuilt for Vietnam. It's a very old code base, and it's in UE3, which all makes it harder and harder to work with. It's like, for example, we've got bugs on servers deranking on Vietnam at the moment.
Yeah,
that you'd think would be simple to fix. I wish. And the problem is that with the best will in the world, you ask coders, if you're being very good, you make your code very, very maintainable. It's well documented, it's easy to understand, and all the rest of it. One of the many challenges for in games is that you've also got to make it perform as well as possible, which means coders will, quite often I'm trying not to be unkind to coders here. They will not take shortcuts, but basically have to rip whole pieces out and make them. What's the most efficient way to do this? It can make it really hard.
Make it functional, but
it's got to be as efficiently functional as possible. But when we do code inspection work, it just gets to the point where you've got to do it as so that the game code runs as efficiently as possible, so you don't make it as maintainable as possible. And then by the time here's an example: the squad system, that existed in RO2 was hacked about for Rising Storm and was completely hacked to pieces for Vietnam. I would not want to have to touch that code ever again, because the risk is that you fix something, but you end up creating 5 more bugs.
Yeah.
So we're at the point with that code base where, any coder we asked to, hey, we're going to build a new game on this code base, they'd go, please no, just don't do that to us. It'll be horrendous. So you kind of we could probably bring, and this is another debate as to when you think about where should we go next. We can bring a lot of the art assets over, a lot of the weapons and things like this. We can save time and money by bringing a lot of that over. There's definitely systems. Well, the thing is, the systems have been designed and are well understood. So there's a lot of systems like all the ballistics and material penetration, things like that have probably need recoding, but they don't have to be redesigned.
Yeah.
At least we know what they've got to do. To build, if we were to build, the next Red Orchestra, I think our internal budget is about 8 million. And it's then do the math. What price do we charge? How many? If we pick a round number, sell 1 million units, yay! That sounds like we should make a shit ton of money. But keep in mind that while the recommended retail price may be, in that case, say it's $29.99, it's $30. On Steam we only get 70% of that. It's more on the Epic Games Store. And then, of course, a lot of the units are sold in Russia and China and places like that, where we charge substantially less. I've forgotten what the Romanian price games are. Sorry.
That's okay.
And then, of course, you have to remember that a decent amount of the games are sold at a discount. They're sold during sale periods and things like this. In principle, if we spend 8 million, and then we'll probably spend another 1 million on marketing. You can't start playing with the numbers and think, well, how many do we have to sell? And that comes back to your point about if we did Soviets in Afghanistan in 81, would 1 million people buy that? Ooh, don't know. So maybe we shouldn't do that. It sounds really interesting, but and then you find yourself getting pushed back to going, oh, let's do Normandy. Everyone will buy Normandy, and you're going, oh, that's so boring. So discuss. We'll figure it out one of these days and produce the next one and hope we get it right.
I mean, it's great that you shed some light about all those aspects because, players don't actually think about all that, like a company perspective and how much it costs.
Yeah.
Like even I was surprised to hear $10 million. Like it's insanely huge.
Oh, I mean, the numbers are ridiculous. I mean, you can do it for less, but you've got to think about what is it we're not going to do.
Yeah.
If the game should take 8 million and we do it for 3, what have we thrown away? Well, first off, you've probably worked everyone to death. You're making everyone work 80-hour weeks, which is not something we're prepared to do. We're trying to be good people. Do you do less maps? Do you what corners do you cut? How do you cut the corners? How do you cut those? What do you throw away? And that's hard. In Vietnam, what do you throw away? We don't do vehicles because they're bloody expensive.
Yeah, because from the community perspective, like, there are the people who are really loyal to Tripwire and they went RO1, RO2, Vietnam, and now they are really pissed off because you started working on a shark game. And they don't understand, like, what it is for the company. Actually, how did you come with the idea to make the shark game?
Well, Manita, we're building up a publishing business alongside the development business, and one of the pieces that came up to us beginning of last year, I think beginning of 2018. I can't remember exactly when. There's a guy called Alex Quick he was the guy who originated Killing Floor, the first Killing Floor.
Yeah.
And he's a guy who is wildly creative, and he'd got this shark game going where you get to play as the shark and eat people. And we went, that sounds really fun, Alex. Had a look at sort of the bit of he'd got about 4 or 5 people working, and we looked at it and went, this could be really fun. And originally he was going to, with his team, was going to finish the game and we would publish it, but we realized that that wasn't going to work for all sorts of reasons. So we weren't intending to build the game ourselves. It was supposed to be just third-party publishing. We were going to get on with some other stuff, but we diverted and ended up, now we're building a shark game. When that's done, we'll get back onto some other things. But yeah, I mean, part of it is one of the big challenges for a video games developer is you spend 3 years, for argument's sake, building a game, like a Red Orchestra. That means you've got to have enough money to keep the company alive for. If it's going to take 3 years to build the game, you probably need to be able to keep the company alive for about 3.5 years. You need that much cash in the bank before you start, or at least you've got to know where you're going to get it from, because otherwise you get halfway through the game and run out of money, and then obviously you just go out of business. So one of the reasons we're doing a lot more publishing now is rather than wait. We get a big influx of cash every 3 or 4 years when we release a new game. Publishing at least means that we can publish more titles more easily, and that doesn't it's not our developers doing the work. Like with Chivalry 2, for example, we're not doing the work on that. We're just providing funding and some help. That's another story. So that the idea there is the more games we can publish, that brings money in more regularly, which makes it easier to plan for doing more development of our own. Yeah, the joys of running a business.
Well, we, the community, we actually hope that the shark game and Chivalry 2 would be a success, so you can start RO3.
Yes, so do we. That would be, yes. If we want, I mean, this is the thing is that, I mean, there was complaints years ago when we did the first Killing Floor. People going, why are you doing that shit? We don't want to play with zombies. We want the next, we want something else, Red Orchestra. And you're going, well, yes, but this could make us a ton of money, which it did. Which means that, we made that and we could go on to do Vietnam and, and now shark games. And this is the thing is that Red Orchestra 1, Red Orchestra 2 gave us the money to do Killing Floor. Killing Floor gave us the money to do Vietnam, and Killing Floor 2. And those two between them of, you just keep building on, you're juggling, how much money do we know we're going to have? So what is it what can we start building? There's no point in us starting to build a game that's going to cost $50 million when we've got $5 million in the bank. You're just going, we'll last until next year and then we're broke. Great. So yeah, I mean, people ask sometimes, do we miss being a mod team? Yeah, sometimes like that, yes we do, because we didn't have to worry about any of that shit.
Yeah, crazy. Well, I hope you will have success and make the game. One more question regarding RS2 Vietnam. And it was the same in Red Orchestra 2. Why do you make mutators plugins whitelisted? Like if I add a plugin on my server, it will become unranked. Why?
We did that. I mean, but originally it's basically an anti-cheat, anti-hacking, anti-fuckery idea.
True, but as a server owner, you wouldn't really allow hackers on,
Well, the thing is, it came out of we used to do that because people would actually put up servers which were designed purely to help you level up as quickly as possible.
Okay.
So unfortunately, not all. I can think of a few others. Not all server owners are equal. Most server admins are basically people we rely on heavily, and do a huge service for us. I mean, we're actually looking at Vietnam, for example, at the moment. At can we just unravel the whole whitelist thing and just get rid of it? And stop worrying about the bloody thing. How easy could we just take it out so that it does, so you can do what you damn well please. That's a piece we're actually looking at the moment. Just because it's a thing that we used to worry about, and now we kind of take the view that, look, if people want to sort of mess about on their server and and rank up extra quick and stuff, do we really care?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Do we do if it screws up other players? There's been occasions where people have done stupid shit like jump people to level 99 in Vietnam, and you go and there's players who don't want that to happen. So there's a duty on us to try and protect that sort of stuff. But
yeah, there are those mega servers who are done by Romanian actually, and he adds like whenever you enter the server through a mutator, I imagine it loads up the Steam browser going to a ads page, and he makes money from that, and the server slots are 255, so unlimited players can join.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of these things that you talk about the fact that we have to make money to stay in business. This is one of these things that really irritates the hell out of us, because
I can imagine.
And can you imagine the amount of work that goes into combating that sort of any of those stupid behaviors? It's such a waste of time.
Yeah, I can imagine. But for us, the decent people, let's say, there are plenty of coders, programmers, whatever, and they can make extremely interesting things from mutators. Communicate with, make local rankings or whatever. But
yeah, I mean, we always love to see what you guys create. There's occasions when stuff's so good we want it in the game, and we've done that in the past. But it's that balancing act between where we have to protect people from bits of fuckery, and at the same time being allowing for the modding community to actually create fun stuff that's actually good. So yeah, that's always a difficult balancing act.
Yeah. Well, Alan, we are close to 1 hour and 30 minutes, and I think we can actually continue for more, but we should stop here. It's been an absolute pleasure. And
this counts.
Yeah, and for the people who are watching this video, Alan sent me quite a lot of interesting stuff from Google Earth, like an actual map to see how they made the research. And if you have any more stuff that you could send me, I would appreciate.
Yeah, there's a ridiculous amount of materials I have. I'll dig through and send you a few samples.
Awesome, thank you. All right, well, it's been a pleasure. Have a great day, and hopefully I'm not gonna go into retirement without playing Red Orchestra free.
I hope not.
All right, have a good day. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers.